Hey everybody, Nick here, and this morning we're going to do a little disassembly on this little bird right here. This is the Byrd Meadowlark 2 in titanium. So this is an interesting piece here. In some ways it is Delica-ish. I mean, and I'm maybe sneak previewing the review here or something like that, but I mean, seriously, this is a Delica. Let's just be real here, but it has one important difference relative to the Delica, which is that it offers a finger choil in the front there. If it weren't for the steel on this guy, this is Delica V, the Delica 5 in the flesh here. But as it stands, whatever. One other thing to note, though, is that this is the titanium version of it, which is actually still reasonably priced, which I appreciate. And so we're going to take a look and take this guy apart, and hopefully it's going to be a lot less painful to do than the regular Delica, just because the backspacer here is metal. That is always the bugaboo with the Spyderco Delica, is that it's hard to get the backlock spring to seat nicely inside that plastic damn backspacer thing, given that there is spring tension and whatnot. That's why I generally recommend that you do not ever disassemble the Spyderco Delica. It is, well, just not a beautiful thing. And so it's nice to see a knife where that's not the issue here. We are actually very rapidly approaching the point where this knife is going to sort of start popping apart. Well, that's interesting. Is this Loctited? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pop this into position here. Actually, what I'll do is I'll take out the pivot here. So what I'm thinking is that it may be the case that the pivot itself, that the blade that is there's too much force being applied on here for me to turn this screw. That'd be a little weird, but it is what it is. So let's go ahead and try and pop the pivot out here, and then see if I can get in there. Let's see, I need a pivot popping affair here. That's kind of wrong sounding, actually. There we go. So there's the pivot popped. And we'll put that over there. This will allow me to pull the blade out of here. Hey, phosphor bronze. Nice. And then hopefully, he says, dreaming, this should now unscrew. Yeah. Needed a little doing, maybe a little more than I'd like. Probably some thread locker in play here. Yeah, there's some thread locker in play. Holy crap, is there thread locker in play. That's okay, though. So we're done, at least with this part of it. I can now start to actually pop this guy apart. The big question here is whether the clip needs to come off, and I don't think it does, because right now I'm not seeing any element of the... if I look at the other side here, it doesn't appear like there's any threading on the backspacer here. So we should just be able to pop this guy apart with the clip included. He says, dreaming. I'm going to go ahead and use my favorite little pry tool. This is the Enigma Pocket Probe by Rat Bastard Tools. And by the way, if you're ever curious about any of the tools that I'm using, and I'm folding some cloth around it so it won't mar the titanium so much, I'm just kind of shaking this a little bit back and forth, hoping that it'll provide a little bit of pop. There we go. So we're popping, and we're popped. Beautiful. Whoa, that's disgusting. Okay, but anyways, if you ever want any of my want to know what tools I'm using for any given, disassembly item approach, go ahead. I've got a whole, that's a weird-looking spring. They've bent a piece of round spring steel into that position. Well, okay, whatever. But I have a whole video about my knife disassembly toolkit that you might find elucidating, if you prefer. So, anyways, let's go on ahead and degunkify. We first elucidate, then we degunkify. This little guy right here. Oh, man. I have an open cut here, and I'm using rubbing alcohol. Hopefully it doesn't penetrate. That's not blood, by the way. That's Sharpie. Somebody wrote 174 on the inside there. Yeah. Hashtag Sharpie Gore. And not in the Al Gore sense. Man, bear, pig, and whatnot. South Park reference. Sorry. Yeah, so this is an interesting piece to me. the Byrd lineup from Spyderco, I've handled a couple of them, and I have been just uniformly disappointed. Because it always just feels like Spyderco busted into a knockoff factory and decided they work for them now, and so they've gotten into the business of making their own Spyderco knockoffs. And that's, at some level, I can respect and understand it as a business decision. You know, if you can't beat them, join them, right? But at another level, it feels like it's defaming the good name of the brand. Okay, so why the heck did they write 174 in Sharpie on this guy when it is engraved in there as well? Okay. Yeah, and it's engraved on the other side as well. Maybe it was engraved after the writing. I don't freaking know. But either way, and so, the Byrd lineup is not something I'd spent any real time thinking about. But then, thinking about, I recently got a Delica with a custom set of scales on it that offer it a finger choil, which is great, and really does change the nature of the tool for the better, I think. And so that got me thinking about the Meadowlark again. And I was thinking, a bunch of people, when I posted my review of the Meadowlark as a part of my March Melee, that's right. My budget knife challenge that I filmed a long time ago, back in the ancient times. There I just kind of tore that knife apart because it was a piece of crap. And a lot of people were saying, well, Nick, you got a bad one, etc. Well, that's not a good excuse because you shouldn't be shipping bad ones. But I figured I'd want to give it another shot. And so when Spyderco actually reached out to me and said, hey, Nick, is there anything you want to check out? I said, yeah, I'd like to see the Byrd Meadowlark again, and specifically titanium version, because I'm curious about that. They also sent along one of these guys, which is roughly equivalent to the one I'd had before, and, just about as bad. Let's be real here. But the titanium one is kind of a weird thing, because at some level, it's in everything except the blade here, which is made from a so-so steel. It's made slightly better than the Delica that it sort of replaces. And so if you're willing to live with 8CR, and I'm sneak previewing here, I guess, but if you're willing to live with the 8CR, then by God, there's a lot of compelling here. There's a part of me that's curious whether there is a blade swap option with your Delica here to get these titanium scales onto a Delica on the cheap. I don't know. Probably not, but, and I don't particularly want to take apart a Delica right now to find that out. And the backlock fit is something that's kind of important and needs to be tuned a little bit, but still, that's not something I'm super duper in love with. It seems just really weird to me that they're keeping all this goodness in their budget area, whereas they could be doing otherwise. Whatever, not a big deal. Let's go on ahead and start the reassembly here, because we've cleaned everything off and out. Oh, I need to clean the pivot is the only other thing. Just wipe that off a little bit. All right. One thing to highlight here is that all of these screws here are D-shaped, which means that they can't rotate, which is good, and is something I appreciate very much. And given that is the case, well. So everybody always asks me on my actual Delica, I have reversed the screws such that the smooth side is on the back side and the screw side is on the front side. This is for accessibility reasons, generally speaking, and also because the D shape is on the front side, not the back side, or is on the back side, not the front side, so it makes sure that they can't spin even if they're slightly pulled out of position there. But I guess I'll just keep it the factory way. I see, aesthetically speaking, why you would want to do it the way that the factory does it, so the smooth sides are in the front, but I don't know. This is going to be probably doing a giveaway sort of thing, so, might as well keep it stockish. But that's a decision I'm not sure I 100% agree with. In fact, that's a decision I'm not sure I 5% agree with. In fact, I'm not sure that there is a percentage with which I agree with that decision. Okay, so now we're missing a piece. Someplace around here. There it is. I found it. Someplace around here was this little guy. And let me go. Now they're flying everywhere. And actually, just in case there is a difference, I'm going to put the one that's got all the thread locker, which is the one that belonged here, into its position where it was previously. And let's go ahead and put that there. Okay. Oh, now I gotta get the pivot in there. Damn it. Let's play. Can I do this without the other ones falling out? Nope. I lost. But that's okay. Not every game can be won. That right there, that was like the Kobayashi Maru of knife disassemblies. Hashtag nerd. Alrighty, there we go. Let's go on ahead. There we go, got it. And we can start the reassembly process in earnest. We'll go ahead, drop this on there. Beautiful. We will go on ahead and we're going to need to align these D-shapes to such that they properly match where they need to be. They are all at very slightly different angles, which is not necessarily super ideal, but they're all roughly facing downwards, so we'll work on that assumption here. I'll start off by rotating. We rotate. We do some rotation here, quality rotation even. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and put in this spring bar, this spring there. I will start by doing some lubrication. I'm going to use the 80 weight, or 85 weight, that is, nano oil here, just because this is not ever going to be a super showpiece for action, but it will, it'll work. These washers are just janky as heck. Wow. That's where you can tell this is a budget knife right there. Put a little bit of that on the back side there. That's a lot of lubrication. But this, I think, is going to need it, given how beat up these washers are. Then I'm going to put a little lubrication on the pivot of the backlock arm here. So now my hope, my dream, my fondest desire is that I'll be able to do this. Oh, come on now. And I'll be able to do this, where I basically use the... popped out. All right, let's get that fully seated again. My hope is to just get this dropped into position here. Needs just a little bit more. There we go. Okay, perfect. And actually now you can see exactly how the back lock on this guy works, which is nice. You can see that this little area here falls into the blade. Yeah, that looks a little different from the Delica. I don't know that the swap could happen. But then when you press this lever down, it releases that, allowing the blade to swing, etc. There's your back lock. But that was nice and easy, and that's because this piece is metal, as it should have been, as opposed to making it out of FRN on the Delica, where it needs a little column there that doesn't always reliably seat, and your life just becomes, well, a circle of hell. So the problem with this, as I mentioned, with doing it this way, is that each one of these things has a little D-shape to it, and then the D-shapes you need to have properly aligned. And so, unfortunately, I'm going to be doing a lot of little D-shape alignment here. And unfortunately, things are going to be under tension now as I'm doing it, which makes it a little bit harder. So I'm just going to go ahead and use these little guys here and just attempt to get everything roughly in position such that this can drop onto the top here. That's not quite there. That one looks good. This one doesn't. But let this forever be a lesson to you who ask me, you know, Nick, why'd you reverse the scales on your Delica? Because that's the better approach. You're very close here. Very, very close. Why is that not seating? Not sure. And then the pivot is good to go. All right. There's a fair amount of tension in this whole system here. All right. This is part of the reason why a lot of people recommend that you take apart the Delica as sort of as an integral knife, and that's reasonable. Where you drop the you put the blade in first, then put the lock bar in at the very end, and that's not a bad approach, honestly. It's one that I've used to some minor success. But the Delica is also not a knife I like taking apart particularly, so it's not a big deal there. I'm going to go ahead and put the pivot in with the goal of, removing 1 degree of freedom from this whole process at least. It's not quite fully seated yet, though, because everything else is not quite fully seated yet, though. I'll start putting in some of these other screws here. With, again, the goal of you just have to get everything in the proper positioning here. But the important ones are going to be the pivot and the lock bar there. Use a little bit of blue Loctite here as opposed to this hardcore white stuff that they're using down here. Yeah, see, now it's starting to come back together. As I'm doing this now, what I'm going to do is probably aim for this bottom one down here, which should also put things further into positioning. You know, it's not great to necessarily use the screws to kind of move the frame around here, but that is sort of the, well, at least in my experience, it's not a terrible approach here. But the fact that this isn't wanting to go in any further is telling me that I think I probably have the, give it a little bit more twisted, dude. Oh no, okay, it's good. Yeah, I just needed a little extra love to pull everything together. Now these two should be able to pop through here without too much trouble once I drop the screw in there. Backlocks seem to have a lot of tension throughout them. There's a lot of dramatic tension. Do you feel the drama, people? What's the most dramatic kind of camel? A dromedary? Okay. Yeah. Where'd my Loctite roll off to? If I were Loctite, I'd want to get away from me too after that joke. Let's be real. All right. Pulling this in. Beautiful. Okay. So now we see where we're at. The pivot is way too loose. That's okay. Pivots can be tightened. And I kind of left it a little loose, given that everything wasn't quite fully in position yet, so. Okay. No play in either direction. Action is reasonably smooth. A little bit of oil on the outside here, just as a result of everything. And some adhesive off of this tape, which is unfortunate. Thank you, steel wheel. But I can clean that off with some booze, which I will try not to get on the thumb. And there we go. This little guy, the Byrd Meadowlark 3, is Meadowlark 3? Meadowlark 2. I just added an incrementation. But anyways, is now disassembled and maintained, and actually running nicely. I can't argue with it too much here. So there you go. Hope this has been interesting to you. Have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.